Welcome to Yellow Table Talk, a podcast for women professionals interested in climate change. No climate experience necessary. My name is Michelle Lee, and I'm the co-founder of Women in Climate. My background is in software sales, and I've worked for some of the biggest companies in Silicon Valley and pivoted into climate in 2021. Together with my co-founder Stephanie Corbally, we have created one of the largest virtual and in-person communities for women interested in climate change, with over 7,000 members in our Slack channel and active members across Asia, Middle East, Africa, North America, South America, and Europe. Head over to our website to learn more, and I hope you enjoyed today's episode. All right, today my guest is Luba Volkova, a sustainability practitioner currently based in Manhattan, but originally from Siberia. Luba is super passionate about plant-based and clean eating. She likes to use the term whole food plant-based, and that is the topic of our episode today. Welcome to Yellow Table Talk, Luba.
Hi, Michelle, and thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited to share my story with you, and it's a great topic to chat today.
I agree. And just a little bit of context, Luba and I met early on in New York during the early days of Women in Climate, and we have been friends ever since. I have even had the honor of enjoying a delicious plant-based meal that was very delicious, made by Luba. I also had a chance to have Luba over to my place for dinner at some point when I was still living in New York. So I'm excited to unpack more in the episode today. So we like to open with what beverage we're having at the yellow table. Luba, what are you having today?
I am drinking tea, and that's a black tea, or that's what we call here in the Western part of the world. But it is Chinese tea, and originally it's been called red tea or Jianhong. It's my favorite type of tea. I typically drink it as a ceremony, using Chinese teaware, taking a quiet time. But today I'm just sipping it with you in a more traditional for us way.
Amazing. I've been to your home, so I've seen how many teas you have. So I was curious what you were going to have, and probably it was going to be a tea. And I'm also having tea, and I'm having Poore tea. Do you know that one, Luba?
Yeah, for sure. That's actually in Chinese what they call black, but for us, it's just poor. I love that tea too, but typically my preference is around Jianhong, and I have a lot of other types in the Jianhong categories that I typically drink. And probably what you saw in my place, these are varieties of herbal teas. I like to experiment with those more, just blend them, different organic herbs.
Amazing. And if you've never done a tea ceremony or been to a tea ceremony, I was really lucky last year because I got to go to Bali, and it's a very spiritual place. And one of the things that I did was I joined a tea ceremony, not really knowing what to expect. And I think we were sitting there for about an hour and a half and re-drinking sort of like the same tea leaves, but obviously, the flavor changes over the different servings, and just being very still and being very mindful. And I loved it. It was such a wonderful experience. And do you do that at home as well, Luba?
Yeah, exactly. That's what I do on a daily basis, maybe just a short way, but a longer sitting, 1 or 2 hours, and maybe with a group of people you love and want to share this practice. That's something I really enjoy.
Well, Luba, let's start the conversation. Will you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, and thank you, Michelle, for the introduction. That was very close to what I want to say about myself, too. When I describe or explain what is my passion or what is my work, I typically touch on the 3 pillars that are very important for me. One is sustainability, and it's my job. I serve as the Corporate Sustainability and Investor Relations Director at a clean energy company. And I've been in this field, in the corporate sustainability field, for more than 15 years. But I have 2 other very related areas that I'm very passionate about. It's a plant-based or plant-powered lifestyle. And I've been following this for more than 10 years and studied also more in a formal way, the plant-based nutrition. And I also became very interested and passionate about mindfulness and meditation, and a bit less than a year ago started learning in a more formal way mindfulness practices to become a meditation teacher in the future. These three pillars for me became over time very related and strengthening each other. So I would love to elaborate in our conversation on each of them.
Thank you for sharing the three pillars in your intro. Sustainability and mindfulness are great ones to have. So I'm excited to unpack that. Let's start by talking about eating and food. Can you tell us more about whole food plant-based eating? What is it? Why is it important? How did you have your personal journey with it?
Sure. First, to begin, I started exploring whole food plant-based diet 10 years ago when I was quite sick and the doctors couldn't help me. So I started really researching, went to the library and started reading peer-reviewed journals, magazines, articles, all about longevity and what is there, what can help me feel better, live longer, enjoy more life. And I realized most of the research, again, scientific research I was finding, they were about plant-based lifestyle. I started implementing, just slowly incorporating different plant-based meals, more plant-based meals in my diet, and eliminating animal products. At the same time, I'm simplified my meals and just was observing how my body is feeling. I started seeing results very quickly. My energy level, the way I feel, and overall in several months, most of my chronic diseases were gone or the symptoms completely were gone. So that was my journey, and I'm still on that journey, and I've been learning a lot and applying different approaches and on how to balance your diet better, how to enjoy more this lifestyle.
That's very interesting that it started from, a sort of a medical standpoint. You didn't know, nothing was working, and you did your own research and you went on this journey. I'm glad to hear that your symptoms are gone and that you're feeling better. Tell us about what you eat. What is whole food plant-based eating? What are some of the core concepts? What do you think about when you put together a meal?
Overall, when I think about healthy eating, I really like the way Michael Pollan, a famous author and a professor at Harvard, who wrote a book in defense of food. So he put it very simply in three phrases. Eat food, not too much, mostly plants. Even though I eat only plants, but overall, I really think it's a wise and simple way to describe healthy eating. And to elaborate on each of this, eat food, real food, whole food. And that's what we forget. And that's where each of us should start if we want to be healthy. Whole food, is sugar is a whole food? No, it's processed food. So we shouldn't really overthink and first start, is it whole or not? Vegan bar, it's not about health. It's a certain product. It's not whole food. If we see there are 10, 20 ingredients, that's not whole food. Enjoy an apple or some simply made desserts that consist of whole foods and you know how it was made. Pea protein, for example, sometimes yes, that's vegan too, but is it whole? No, it's powder. It used to be vegetable, but not anymore. So just simply rewiring our minds a little bit towards the whole foods versus the products. That's an important step. And that's, I think, the biggest part of healthy eating. Not too much, super important to explore our relationship with the food, why we eat, what is behind, why we overeating, and what is the right portion, how to balance here. And the third, mostly plants. I would say only plants, but if your approach is mostly plants, then any research we take, serious research that's out there, will tell you the same. Eat plants. And again, whole plants.
What about raw versus cooked? Do you have an opinion on that?
I do. Overall, again, if we look at the research, there is no need to do only raw or only cooked, but typically more raw, it's better. Often many vegetables, typically it's about vegetables, they're good in both forms. And some of them, like beans, they're bioavailable only in the cooked form. Or if it's starched vegetables, which are amazing also in the whole food, like sweet potato, we can consume it only in the cooked way. But again, not overly processed, not fried, but lightly steamed, for example, or soaked, or boiled if it's, again, beans, but that's it.
Yeah. What about, like what does it even mean? What does it look like to have a whole food plant-based diet?
For example, yesterday I had for breakfast a quite big portion of oatmeal. It was an overnight oatmeal with wild blueberries, garnished with some nuts and goji berries, also with bananas. Yeah, for lunch I had steamed tofu with broccoli, and I had a very nice green dressing, freshly made dressing. That was my lunch. And actually for dinner, I skipped yesterday. I just had, as a snack, a couple of muffins I just made, and it was enough. So I skipped my dinner.
Okay. And a personal question I want to ask, because I love rice. Is rice good?
There is nothing bad overall about rice. We don't need much of it. Yes, and if you eat it is better brown, there's still a bit more nutrients. But if you eat just not too much, otherwise it's quite a calorie-dense food. And if you eat a lot of rice, there is not much left for more nutrient-based, nutrient-dense food. That's one. Just a little bit rice, and also play around with other grains. There are so many of them, but we often stick with the same, and then it's not as beneficial for us. And second, what I've been reading, most of the rice that's available here in the US, not all, and I think you can find a better one, most of the rice is contaminated with the heavy metals because of the type of the rice that produced again and again. Numerous tests were showing that. So just be mindful where it's coming from. Educate yourself on that. Buy a better type of rice.
Fair enough. I will definitely look into the sources more. Thanks, Luba, for sharing. And I guess from a climate perspective, why is plant-based eating impactful?
Yes, and also to add on the journey that we just were talking about, while I started eating plant-based for personal health reasons, it's very quickly became apparent how significant my impact on the environment, positive impact, just switching to a plant-based diet. I just simply didn't know before I started learning about this. So from the environmental sustainability perspective, our diet has a very significant impact on the environment, whether it's greenhouse gases, water pollution, soil degradation, all aspects of sustainability associated with the way we consume, the way we eat. But particularly, there is so much data on the greenhouse gas emissions. One of the common numbers we probably hear all the time, around 30% of greenhouse gases are associated with the food and agriculture. Just imagine in our personal footprints, when we switch to plant-based diet, we can reduce our impact not just by 30%, because for us, for individuals, it's even more. If we don't fly, if we don't use airplanes, food is going to be our most significant environmental footprint. So if we switch from animal-based diet to plant-based, we can reduce by 80-90% our personal footprints. I always like to refer, if we talk about scientific data behind the connection between animal-derived diets and plant-based. One of the best sources, one of the most comprehensive study that analyzing greenhouse gas emissions from animal food is done by Poore and Nemecek. More than 5 years ago, it was published in the journal Science. So that data has analysis of 38,000 farms in 119 countries, hundreds of different regional studies, and the findings are overwhelming. So we can see how the protein that received from the animal source not only 10 or 20 or 50% has more impact on the climate, but it's sometimes like 50, 60 or 90 times more. If we're comparing 1 gram of protein that comes from the pea and 1 gram of protein that comes from the beef, the difference of the impact in terms of greenhouse gases is going to be 90 times. That's overwhelming. And so the data is there. We know it's one of the most significant sources of greenhouse gases and other environmental issues we're facing today. So why not do this if it's so good for our health too?
I think those are really great points. Like 25 to 30% of emissions are from food and agriculture, and that is almost the same as energy, transportation sectors, which, as we all know, are very large, but we see those, right? We live in cities, we see buildings, we see transportation, really see where our food is coming from. And we also don't really know about the emissions and things like land footprint, right? We are diminishing biodiversity because we have a lot of people on this planet. And even things like, if we want more biofuels, we also need more feedstock. So we're in an interesting time now in terms of some of the decisions that we make, as individuals and as countries for what we want to do when it comes to food. So thank you for sharing some of those stats and why, from a climate perspective, it can be really impactful. And I guess it doesn't mean being perfect, right? Like, eating plant-based doesn't have to be perfect. I know you are, Luba. You eat very clean and you are plant-based 100%. But even if we all had 1 meal a day or 1 meal a week, it does make a difference.
Yes, 100%. It does make a difference. And it also does make a difference for you, for your health, and for your environmental footprint. It just depends on what is your balance and why you're doing it, and just finding your way that works for you, that is sustainable for you today is very important. There could be different exploration. You can try to be more on the plant-based side. If you simply want to reduce your environmental footprint, that's one approach. If there is a disease you want to reverse, you maybe want to be more strict for a while to go back to more optimal health. It depends on why you're doing it.
Right. That's a good point. And that's also another lens of looking at plant-based eating is the health aspect, not necessarily the climate aspect. So, there's a lot of saturated fats and animal proteins and hormones, and there's a lot of research out there. So we don't have to hash it out here. But even from a health perspective, I think that there's a lot to say there as well. And I'm also really impressed, Luba, by all the studies that you're quoting. Like, you've really taken the time to do your own research to help inform decisions on your own health and what you're going to eat.
Yes, I do. And I truly enjoy it. Maybe because I did it very naturally bit more than 10 years ago, and I was very motivated by my personal health to discover what really can help me. And I didn't have any pressure when I was researching, meaning no one was shaming me saying, this is right, this is wrong, you should do this. And I do see a lot of this now lately in the society, social media, there are a lot of opinions on that. In my case, I simply wanted to help myself and use scientific data, then slowly apply it and saw the result. So I embodied what is good for me and came to this conclusion quite slowly within several months and simply continued exploring it. So I think it's very important to take it personally and not to listen to many people when you are exploring something like plant-based lifestyle or any variation of this, and try to consult credible sources.
Fair enough. Those are important points. Everyone is going to go on their own personal journey. There's no right or wrong. Take the time that you need. So, Luba, what are a few of your favorite recipes? Also, where do you go to find new recipes?
I really love cooking, and I started loving cooking, especially when I switched to whole food plant-based diet. When I realized that actually any meal I love, I can make it healthy and still delicious, my enthusiasm around this topic, it became unstoppable. So I keep exploring. I have a lot of resources, and I'm also happy to share with some list with you, Michelle. I'll mention a couple of them. I have a long list of recipes that I want to try. It's probably hundreds of those. So I like to experiment. But some of the go-to recipes that I always go back to because it's easy and fun, for example, Vietnamese summer rolls. And that's something I made for you, I think, Michelle, too. It's very quick and easy. It's really cool for a party. If you have several people coming, you don't have time to cook. It's like I had it several times. I have guests coming at 6. I work at home until 5:30. I have 30 minutes just to make something. So I would quickly prepare any veggies you have in your fridge. Rice paper available always in my drawer. And then we would roll them together. It's also a fun and cool exercise to bond, to learn something new. If you have tofu, tempeh, avocado, that will make your rolls more nutritious, more filling. And I would quickly make 2-3 types of dressings, some maybe original peanut butter, lemon tamari, maple syrup, water, the traditional healthy version of peanut butter sauce, maybe a couple of others more spicy, ginger. So all of this takes really like 10 minutes prep and then rolling this together. That's something I do all the time, and everyone loves summer rolls. That's my go-to. A lot of baking options. I really love baking, and there is almost no dessert you would name that is impossible to make it healthy. And when I mean healthy, it means like I don't use any oil, I don't use sugar, I don't use store-bought flour, no gluten. It's still possible to make a cake or muffins. Yeah. So there are a lot of options. Just start exploring. And as I said, I will provide the list, Michelle. But some of my favorite resources for recipes, especially when I just started transitioning to this lifestyle, is forks over knives. They're amazing. They're really good. They're not gluten-free, but it's oil-free. It's very clean, and they're very exciting. They never have boring recipes.
Okay, great. We'll make sure to include some of your favorite sources in the show notes. When it comes to people who are just getting started, they're interested, they want to experiment, do you have some tips for them to get started on the journey? You know, we talked about the fact that they don't have to be perfect from the start. What other pointers do you have?
Yeah. So number one, I still would say explore your whys. This is between you and you. Why you doing it? It doesn't matter. The answer doesn't matter. It's just important to be more or less clear on this. If it's losing weight, that's one motivation. If having more energy, it's another. Or if it's only environmental, these two, but then I would ask why your health is not included. Why are you less important? Are you feeling perfect? I don't know anyone who would feel perfect. Everyone wants to improve some energy level or something else related to health. So just if you know your why and then you exploring the new lifestyle or some new habits, then you can observe the difference. then you can observe the changes. If your goal is to feel more energized and you transition into whole food, plant-based diets or plant-centered diet. So you eat more greens, more veggies, balance your meals. And then you're like, how do I feel? How do I feel in a week? And if I'm not feeling good, was my diet balanced, or I still was eating a lot of candies and maybe occasionally salad? Just being honest with yourself and what you want, and without shame or any guilt, just being honest and explore it. That's number one. For this reason, I would highly recommend the book Mindful Eating. It's written by Jen Chosen Bays, who is trained as a monk, but she's also a professional doctor. So she has degree in medicine and Western medicine. And it's amazing how she combines different worlds and centers this views around mindful eating, how it is important to understand like what you eat, how you eat, why you eat, what is behind your hunger really. Is it your physical hunger, or maybe you're hungry for something else? And the same with the unhealthy eating habits. Do I really like candies, or there is something else?
Interesting. Gonna have to really unpack that, right?
Yeah, that's from this perspective. And a couple of other books that I always love and I go back to them or always recommend. Number one is China Study. Many people know and refer to this, but when I ask if they really read it, that's not common. So if you're curious about the science, this is one of the most comprehensive study on different diets, 30-year long, conducted a group of researchers from Cornell University and China. And T. Colin Campbell was one of the leading researchers. He's also a pioneer in the whole food plant-based movement. That's the first book I read 10 years ago. And then, because I didn't believe the book, I didn't know who this person was. So I went to the library and found the original research, peer-reviewed research, and studied them and found the confirmation that this is all real. But the book is amazing. And it's not only the book. If you don't like the books, the website nutritionstudies.org has a lot of resources, science-based resources on what is good for your body, what is not, how to start transitioning to whole food plant-based diet, some recipes. So a lot of knowledge from credible sources on this platform. And another name also to bring here, it's also science-based source, Michael Greger and his books. Maybe you heard How Not to Diet, How Not to Age, a lot of practical resources with not only the reference to research, but he always explains what study shows and how to read certain articles, scientific articles, and why it's important. So it's a great resource.
Okay. Yeah, we'll definitely include that in the show notes. And so, Luba, I'm just really curious, how do you operate at work events or dinner with friends that are not necessarily on their journey to whole food plant-based eating yet? And I think work is especially tough because you don't want to offend people. You don't want people to maybe be judgmental of your choices. You don't want to explain everything. So how do you deal with that?
These are great questions. And the comment number one here, the more you enjoy what you do, the easier all of this becomes. It's so much easy. You don't overthink it. It's more natural. So number one, restaurants. If you are like me and you love cooking, it's even easy. So you're not expecting much from the restaurants. You can just have a simple salad or something because you just get everything you love, a lot of flavor and different taste and meals at home. So when I go to restaurant, I just don't even look for anything special there. However, sometimes it's fun. And that's again, if you really like restaurants, what you could do, you can talk and you can ask and you can have a list of restaurants that's more responsible. in terms of the quality of food and maybe also sustainability practice. And it's okay to ask, do you use oil? Is it okay if you make it with that's okay. In some places won't be open to do this, others will. But what is more important, how you feel, what you believe, or just bother to ask someone. So it's very easy, but also just maybe host more dinners at your place and I don't know, cook together with your friends. I just mentioned the summer rolls party. It's fun. And I know not everyone likes cooking, so that could be challenging. But there are so many simple dishes that we can make and have a picnic if the weather is good. So just try different options other than restaurants and find the restaurants that you respect. And third, even most restaurants, not only vegan, they have very good options in the sides section.
Yeah.
Often it's not as boring, honestly. If it's a good restaurant with high quality food, just fresh, often from the farm, their side's going to be so delicious. And that's what I do often.
Wait, so what about at work? That's the hard one. Whether it's a lunch meeting and they bring food in, or maybe it's a happy hour or a company event where they do a dinner. How do you handle those situations?
So there are two approaches here. One, if you all order, you can just order what you want. If it's an event and you organizing maybe this event or ask those who organize to consider different options. That's actually what happened in my company. Very naturally, I always was promoting plant-based options, but at some point we just realized we have so many vegetarians in my company is a clean energy. We have a lot of engineers, so it's not only sustainability. I'm the only sustainability professional. So, but if you start exploring, it turned out a lot of people actually want vegetarian options. So one option is to suggest hey, what if we have a policy or some guidelines that would require those who order in big lunches for events at work, they would think, okay, do we have plant-based versions of this food? Because we just want to be considerate. It's not only for the purpose of sustainability or health, but also to respect someone's choice.
Yeah. I'm just thinking about my time working in tech. We had a lot of lunches in the office, happy hours in the office. And, I was already vegan at the time. And there's this whole table of food and maybe one or two things that I could eat. And that was always very frustrating for me. But that's not even, incorporating the whole food aspect. Maybe it was French fries, which is not super clean and healthy. So yeah, maybe you have a strategy where you do actually bring a snack or eat before.
I often bring plenty of veggies or already prepared lunch or fruits. And it's also took some time because often what I would do, I go to this event and I'm tempting to eat. If it's vegan, but it's not completely healthy, I tend to eat, but then I just don't feel good. So I reflected several times on this strategy and I accepted that that's not working for me. So next time, if I don't have something, it's better for me not to eat. It became easy, but it took some time just to reflect and notice, I just ate this. I don't feel good. I don't want to do it again. And then you say, what if we offend? Not to be offensive or not to offend others. Number one, first, I care for my health. My plan is not to offend anyone, right? But also, it took a while even for me not to be judgmental towards others because there is such a common response in all of us when we transition to vegan or clean eating. We feel and I'm generalizing, not everyone, but it's common. We feel like everyone should be like that, or just why are you eating this? Why are you eating so unhealthy? So it took for me also a while. This is my choice. It's amazing if you're inspired because it's so amazing. I'm so happy to do this. But if not, I respect whatever you do. If it's my attitude towards others, I notice there is also less judgment from the other. And It just doesn't matter much. I noticed people often confuse, and it's like, I'm happy to share, but there is just different misconceptions, and I don't need to convince anyone. I do it because I do it. So anyways, like someone's opinion, it's pretty easy to accept whatever it is if you feel firm on the choice you making, why you're making. And again, there is a reminder, you feel good. Your body feels good. You have a lot of energy, and that's amazing. And that's what matters.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that, Luba. So now we're moving into the last part of the episode here, and we're switching gears to our Real Talk segment. You know, as women professionals, we have ups and downs in our personal, professional lives. Do you have a win, a challenge, a story, anything that has recently or maybe is currently playing out in your personal or professional life that you'd like to share with our listeners?
I was thinking about what could be relevant, and I think one of the biggest wins or achievements for me that I wanted to share that maybe can be inspiring for other women. Some time ago, when I realized that I have these 3 passions, I tried to separate them, like different lives. Work is sustainability, the corporate world, that's one. Then the plant-based world, it's a bit different dimension, and the same about mindfulness. The more I feel stronger about all of these pillars, I realize maybe I don't need to separate, and maybe it's okay if they are blending and I can bring one passion to another dimension of my life. For example, recently, several months ago, I started facilitating meditations at my work. It's a monthly initiative for employees where we gather and I guide meditations using the skills that I'm receiving in the program I'm enrolled. And it helps all of us to connect, to bond better, to find some peace. And I'm also doing something I enjoy and love, and it's also at the workplace that is completely not related to the mindfulness. But then I also realized, actually, as a part of my mindfulness session, I also was guiding mindful eating meditation or tea meditation. So I brought even another passion to my professional world, and it's all welcomed. So sometimes being more open and trusting what you believe in, just help you to amplify your professional work, even if you bring in certain areas of your life that not related to this.
I love that, Luba. Thank you for sharing that. And I think these are all really helpful skills to have in life that sometimes it's hard to acquire without a little push, you know, something like meditation, mindfulness. So being able to offer that in the workplace, and it's opt-in, right? You don't have to do it. But I think for yourself, you get that meditation as well, and you get to inspire others, and seeing that it can also just be very fulfilling.
Yes, that's a great summary, Michelle.
Well, Luba, thank you so much for joining us today and imparting so much wisdom on food and how we eat and whole food plant-based diet. And I really enjoyed our conversation, and I look forward to seeing you soon, Luba.
Same here, Michelle. I really enjoyed this conversation. Thank you again for having me.
Thanks for joining us today. Head over to www.womenandclimate.co to learn more about how to join and support our free community. And be sure to subscribe to Yellow Table Talk wherever you get your podcasts. Stay tuned for the next episode.